Hello, welcome to the 2026 Veterinary Practice Expansion Playbook. Today we're going to discuss how multi-location veterinary groups are creating predictable growth in an increasingly competitive market. If you're responsible for multiple hospitals, planning future expansion, or simply trying to improve performance across your network, this webinar is designed for you. My goal today is to share with you the strategies that we've seen successful veterinary practice groups employ across the country to create predictable growth without solely relying on referrals or just hoping that somebody finds them. So before we begin, a little bit about my background. I've been working in the healthcare and service industry marketing space since 2013, helping business owners create predictable systems for growth. The three areas that we focus on when we're doing this is better systems, better strategy, and better execution. Those are the three areas that really need improvement, especially when you move into multi-location marketing for veterinary practice. You have to have strong systems in place that are repeatable across the network and strong strategies for each individual location within that system because they each need individual attention. And then from there, it's strong execution. When you have multiple locations in a veterinary group, it's not just about increasing demand, it's about implementing systems that drive growth at each of those individual locations. Let's go over the challenges that the veterinary industry is facing. Today it looks very different than it did 5 years ago. Consolidation continues to accelerate. There's many larger veterinary groups that are out there acquiring new hospitals and new locations. You're seeing veg acquiring things. You're seeing pet folk popping up on different street corners. At the same time, consumer expectations continue to rise. Pet owners expect convenience, visibility, online reviews, fast communication, and easy access to care. As a result, a lot of hospitals are discovering that what worked for them 5 years ago is no longer working today in terms of driving growth. So the practices that are growing are adapting their systems, their technology, and patient acquisition strategies to match today's market. So when I speak to veterinary owners and operators, I often hear the same thing. We need more leads. Now, after digging deeper, that's usually not the real issue. Most organizations don't simply need more inquiries. First, one of the things you'd like to see is not just leads, but they actually need qualified patients. They need stronger visibility in the market. They need better insight into what's happening at the hospital. And more importantly, what they need is a system so that they can implement these strategies and grow at scale. Growth becomes easier when you have all of these different factors working together. Growth layers. When we look at veterinary organizations that consistently grow, we typically see 5 primary growth levers. The first is new patient acquisition. This one is simple. This is your first line of defense. These are your ads. These are your call us now, fill in the form. Let's get you on the schedule, right? That's the first one. The second one is retention and repeat visits. Once you got that pet to come in for the first time, are they going back to another vet or are they coming back to see you again in 6 months for a wellness check? The third is capacity utilization, making sure that the existing team, schedule, and facility are being used effectively. I've often seen things of blocked out times on schedules that don't need to be blocked out, preventing emergency cases from getting on the schedule. So that's something that needs to be looked into in terms of making sure that the facility is organized for optimal capacity and that it can be utilized properly. The fourth is introducing or expanding services. In today's age, there are always new services, there are always new solutions, there's always a new thing that can be implemented in your area, and we want to make sure that we stay on the cutting edge and that we're always finding new options for care, better standards, improved options in that regard. And the fifth is opening or acquiring additional locations. Now, as you can see in operating in the multi-location vet space, if you were still struggling with new patient acquisition at location 1, opening up location 2 could open you up for a world of hurt, right? There's certain things that you have to get done and nailed down and dialed in at location 1 before you can open up location 2. And what happens is that after location 3, location 4, and as those things are going, that system that worked in one hospital or 2 hospitals or 3 hospitals is not necessarily going to work as you continue to grow and expand. There could be an issue with the system or things like this, right? So you have to have a predictable system when you're adding additional locations, so that you can continue to grow and expand. Now, marketing affects the first one, right, in terms of like new patient acquisition. However, if you don't have that line sorted out and working in the hospitals, the rest of them are going to run into a lot of trouble, right? If you don't have the new patients coming in the door of each of the hospitals in the network, then you're going to be in a rough spot there. So let's go over why most veterinary marketing fails. One of the biggest reasons veterinary marketing fails is misalignment. Okay, many agencies focus on metrics like clicks, impressions, rankings. Who's gotten a report from a marketing agency before that says, here's how many clicks you got, here's your cost per click, here's how many impressions you got, here you're ranking for this new keyword, okay? And they can tell you about these things, so they can focus on these things. And while those metrics do have their use, they really aren't what the ownership team needs to be worrying about. The ownership team needs to be concerned with appointments, revenue, patient growth, location performance, right? At the end of the day, okay, great, we got 1,000 clicks. Which ones of those clicks resulted in new patient appointments? Maybe you find out that only, 20% of your clicks are resulting in your appointments. What can we do to streamline those ads so that they're those 20% of clicks that turn into appointments turns into 40% or 60%? How can you increase that? You always want to be working to how do you get more out of that? How do you more optimize that? So most successful organizations focus on business metrics first and marketing metrics second. Okay, so that's at the end of the day, your marketing team needs to be held accountable for and responsible for where are the new patient visits? Where is the revenue from new patients, right? Because we don't care about the ranking if, oh wow, the rankings are through the roof. We're at the top of the page. Awesome. The revenue's down and the new patient visits are down. So I don't care about the rankings, right? I want to figure out what do we need to move to get those new patients coming in that area. Okay, so we're business metrics first, marketing metrics second. Here's what I'm seeing growing veterinary groups doing differently. When we study high-performing veterinary groups, there are some common things that they are doing, right? So they're creating consistent lead flow rather than relying on seasonal spikes, okay? They're not just hoping for a parvo outbreak. They're actually doing things to create that lead flow coming in regularly. They invest heavily in local visibility, specifically in Google. They're actively generating and managing reviews. They're making sure that those happy clients with those pets that they helped with that problem, they're making sure they get those reviews. They have a reporting system that allows the leadership team to understand performance by location, right? Veterinary groups that are growing consistently, they develop repeatable expansion playbooks, right? They have the steps and the systems in place of when we're doing a new practice acquisition, here are the steps that we're doing. The reality is that fast growing groups are not simply better marketers, they're better system builders, okay? And their success comes from consistency and execution. And this is really the change that occurs when a person moves from being the veterinarian at one hospital, they're the operator, they're the vet. They're doing the thing, they're pushing on marketing, they're answering the phone when they have to, they're doing everything, they're hustling, they're trying to make that happen. When you move into the veterinary practice group space, you have to switch from being the operator to being the system architect, right? And that you're designing the systems and the playbooks so that you can create situations where other veterinarians can succeed at their locations. What's the solution? We call it the Veterinary Growth Engine. This is what we call the Veterinary Growth Engine, and it starts with visibility, okay? This includes your website, your local search presence, your Google business profile, goes into paid advertising. This is where you get visible, okay? And so once visibility is established, the focus shifts to conversion, okay? And that's turning visitors into appointments, okay? This is the spot where on the website, I can't tell you how many times I go and I find someone, they're paying for ads, and you go to the website and the phone number rings for 3 minutes until the front desk answers. Or the receptionist answers and she's kind of rude. Or the web form doesn't make it to the front desk. Or the person doesn't follow up. Or a lead comes in and they say, well, I emailed them, but they didn't call them, right? And it's like the person paid for this lead. So you have to have that system that shifts a lead into a conversion into a patient in the hospital. So from there, the patient experience becomes critical, right? Now it's, how is this experience? Does the person feel cared for? Are you paying attention to them? Did you give them enough time? Did you listen to their concerns? Did you make them feel heard? Do they think you care about their pet, right? So that in-office experience becomes critical. Okay, now after they finish their visit, we're looking at this positive experience to generate a review, a referral, stronger retention, right? These are the outcomes that create long-term growth, right? They provide the information necessary to make better decisions. Because when you have the information on these, you can find out which areas are you struggling in, right? If we find out that we're getting a lot of leads, we're not getting a lot of conversion, sometimes like, okay, maybe the ads were targeting the wrong area or something. Like there are things like that, right? But provided your ads are targeting the right area with services that you provide, you should be converting them, right? And if we're not converting them, we need to find out, where are they not being converted? Are they not being called? Is the receptionist rude? Are people being put on hold for 3 minutes? Are we doing the secret shopper calls to find out what's going on? Okay, we're getting a lot of patients coming in, but we're getting bad reviews. Okay, interesting. What's happening in the patient experience there? Is the patient being treated rudely? Is someone making sure that they talk about how cute the dog is when they come in? Are they building rapport? But by having each of these isolated, right, we can find out where the trouble is lying and what we need to do to fix it, or what we can strengthen or what we can improve, right? But when all these pieces work together, that's where revenue becomes predictable. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. We want predictable revenue. If one of these things is missing or one of these things is lagging, that revenue is going to lag. So let's look at a practical example, right? So imagine we're going to do a scratch practice in Dallas, right? We're going to launch a new emergency focused veterinary hospital in Dallas. We found an area around Dallas with a good population. We're not really seeing many emergency hospitals there. We want to do that, right? So we need to have a playbook in place, right, of what needs to happen before that launch goes. 90 days, we're conducting competitive research. We're analyzing local demand, identifying the competitors. The website needs to be built. We're optimizing local search assets to launch on day one. There are even some assets that you can launch to start gaining traction with Google that say, coming soon. And they're ready to go as soon as the new hospital opens, right? We're preparing the review generation systems, getting the QR codes ready to go, so that day one, the happy client gets to leave a review, and we're building reviews on day one, right? So there's a lot of work that goes into that beforehand, okay? We're creating the referral and retention programs before the first patient even walks through the door, right? And this is key, right? So before that guy gets there, let's already have this built out. How are we asking for the referral? How are we booking the next appointment? Are we giving them a sticker to put on their calendar for, here's when your next appointment is? Are you having them mark it in their calendar on the spot? What are we doing to make that next appointment for that next wellness check and the next opportunity we can talk about further services with them, right? So during the launch week now, we're actively engaging in paid advertising, right? So before the launch, we've gotten these systems set up beforehand, and then now we're going to launch, right? Now we're launching, the new business is open, we got paid ads, we have multiple messaging angles, we have multiple offers, we have multiple things going out to kind of see a survey of, in this area, what are people really responding to? We do some research beforehand, right, to find out what kinds of things are we kind of expecting, what might we see the competition doing. But once that launches, then we're really able to see what's really there. What are people really responding to? Are they responding to dentals, vaccines, allergies? What are the things that are getting people's attention? Is it emergencies? Is kind of simple, right? Those are just going to be, you're in an area with less emergencies. People are looking for emergency veterinarians. Those ones are a little simpler there, right? But some of these other services that you can find is to find out which ones of those people are interested in, right? So when we're doing that, we're tracking the leads, right, in the source. So here's this lead. Where did it come from? What happened with it? Did it generate revenue, right? We got to have those things locked in so that we can keep track of those. And then over the next 6 months, we're optimizing performance, including introducing additional marketing channels, refining the processes, improving conversion rates. Growth doesn't happen because a location opens, right? We can't expect that just because we open up the doors that people are going to be flooding in, right? We have to create that. Growth happens when there's a system in place before the doors open. Now, here are the biggest mistakes that I see multi-location groups make. one of the most common mistakes we see is treating every location exactly the same. Okay, so different markets have different levels of competition. They have different demographics. They have different patient demand. They have different referral opportunities. What works exceptionally well in one market may not perform well in another, right? Successful groups standardize their systems while customizing their execution. Okay, so we're going to standardize the system while customizing the execution. And this balance is what allows them to scale effectively. Okay, in some areas, you're going to find that an offer that works in one area is not going to work in another area. We're going to find that a certain type of Google ad that works great in one state is not going to work well in another state, right? But the system is standardized, right? The system is we're doing this, and this, right? And then when we find out that this little part needs tweaking, we're going to make some changes to it. And when we find this part needs a little tweaking, we're going to make some changes to it. But you're not reinventing the wheel every time, right? The system is in place, and you're going to customize the execution of which one of these ads is performing better, right? Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk about what we need to track. Okay, so we have a system, we have a pipeline, we have these steps, we know the different areas that go into turning a person from a lead into a repeat client who's also referring their friends, right? So now we need to get reporting down on these different areas, okay? So most leadership teams that have worked with a marketing agency, you already receive marketing reports. Some of them show you're ranking for this keyword, you're ranking for that keyword, you got this many clicks, right? But the marketing metrics are secondary to the business metrics. Remember that? We have to keep that in mind, that the business metrics are the first thing, right? The clicks went up and the income went down. Bad. You know, we got to find out what's going on. We want the revenue to be going up. That's what needs to be happening. The new patients, the new clients, the returning clients, all these numbers need to be going up, right? They need to be bringing in more revenue, and it needs to be growing the business. And all marketing actions need to be geared towards supporting those business metrics. We are not doing marketing metrics for their own sake. This is where it comes in that we need to be looking at the right numbers. We don't focus primarily on clicks and traffic. I would recommend tracking things like calls, appointment requests, new patients, cost per new patient value, and revenue by location. Okay, those metrics create accountability and help the leadership team identify opportunities and also some weaknesses, right? If we're tracking that it costs us $124 in ads to acquire a new patient, right? And that new patient on average is worth $1,200 to the hospital. Well, that seems like a good one. That's a good avenue there, right? But a person might go, oh, $124, that's really expensive. Well, yeah, okay, but when you pay $124 in ads, they're bringing in $1,200. That's pretty good, right? So you got to keep both of those factors in mind of that middle area. What's the margin? What are we making in there? You got to keep in mind what gets measured consistently usually improves. So keeping your eye on these things and putting your attention on it on a weekly basis, right? And so this is why I bring this up weekly, okay? So it may be that if you're running multiple locations, you're maybe not able to keep tabs on this weekly, but someone in your team should be measuring these metrics weekly by location, so we can find out which one of these areas needs improvement at which hospital, at which location. Okay, so now let's go over an action plan that you can do this week. Okay, so here are the 5 things I'd recommend. 1, perform competitive research for each location. Okay, so that means go to your area. If you can go to the hospital, great. If not, there are tools where you can set your computer to be in another location or appear to be in a location, and you can do a search from there to find out what this is like. But go to your area and do a search. What competition shows up? Let's see, what are they doing? Are they running ads? What does their Google business profile look like? What's going on over there, right? Okay, 2nd, evaluate the patient experience. Check the phone answering, the hold time, overall responsiveness. Call a competitor, see what happens. Do you go on hold for 3 minutes? If you pretend to have a dog or you're asking a question about something, do you get put on hold for 5 minutes? Do they tell you to come in right away? Do they say we're booked until Tuesday? What's the competition like? Inform yourself, find out. Call a couple other hospitals in your area or have a friend do it or something like that. But just kind of find out, see what's going on there, right? Okay, now that you've done that, I want you to secret shop your location and compare it to your competitors. Now call your hospital. Have a buddy call your hospital, right? What happens? Are you on hold? How does the receptionist treat you? Did you like the way the other hospital treated you better than the way your receptionist did? If so, there's an area for improvement. Next one, audit your Google business profile and online reviews. Let's take a minute. Is your Google business profile up to date, showing accurate information? What are your reviews like? Do you have good reviews recently? You can also filter it, right? Filter it by newest, okay? And see the newest reviews. What's been going on the last couple months? Is there an issue with the customer experience when they're in the hospital? Is someone being rude to someone? Um, it's going to be hard sometimes. The emergency case comes in and doesn't make it, and it can be hard. Sometimes that's going to be a 1-star review, almost no matter what heroic action was taken to try to help it, right? Because that's a rough situation for that pet owner. And sometimes that's practically inevitable. But we want to look: are we seeing patterns of several 1-star reviews in a row? Maybe there's something that we could improve. Let's look at those and use that as useful feedback. Even if the doctor thinks they're doing something right, the customer is having this type of experience, so maybe we need to change something. What can we do to improve it? And the fifth thing is review your reporting systems and identify growth bottlenecks. Okay, so we talked about these different phases, from lead to repeat customer that's referring their friends, right? And each of these different phases that they go through, and how each of those steps can be measured. So let's review those numbers and see, where are we falling down? Where are we missing on those, right? We want to see which one of those spots needs the attention to grow. So these activities are going to show you those opportunities, and they're going to give you actionable items that you can take to immediately increase your results and start driving growth more in that hospital. All right, well, thank you for spending some time with me today. If you're responsible for a multi-location veterinary organization and you'd like an outside perspective, we'd be happy to help. We offer a complimentary growth assessment where we'll review one of your locations and evaluate your visibility, your patient acquisition systems, reporting, and competitive positioning. Our goal is simple: identify practical opportunities that can help create more predictable growth. If that sounds valuable, schedule a growth assessment call with me, and I'll be happy to take a closer look. Otherwise, because you registered for the webinar today, a member of our team will be reaching out to you to get some more information to help get started on this growth assessment. So thank you again, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.